Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, welcome everybody. Toker Talk Radio on the air, and after that last segment, I need a little time, or I'm going to just start screaming, and that's not good radio. So, in the meantime here, I think we need all to get a little bit of anger off of our chests in the only legitimate way we can do. That's right, folks, the filter is off. Have at it.
Well, I got me a job at a rundown diner, making good tips and it couldn't be finer, till some lady said that I was being rude. She said my soup's too hot and my coffee's cold, and I said, ma'am, that's because you're old. And I decided right there to spit something in her food. So I found a plate and I hocked something in it. Wouldn't you know that in just that minute the manager was coming around that curve. He said, boy, you just must be crazy, not to mention dumb and lazy. I gave that fat bitch just what he deserved. I said, I quit, you fat motherfucker. You can take this job and shove it up your ass. I said, I quit, you fat motherfucker. I'm going home and I'm smoking grass. Well, we all gotta work just to stay alive, and everybody's working that 9 to 5. And working, man, it sure can make you sick. When you've been working 5 years in the same damn place, and the boss keeps screaming in your goddamn face, and you wanna tell that asshole to suck yo. Yeah. Stand up to yourself and be a man. You can do it, anybody can. Give that fat man a big fat piece of your mind. Tell him that you want a raise, and if he laughs right in your face, bend right over and show him your behind. And say, I quit, you fat motherfucker. You can take this job and shove it up your ass. I said, I quit, you fat motherfucker. I'm going home and I'm smoking grass. Everybody's doing what they can, and we're all sick of working for the man. So stand up straight and let your voice be heard. Sing this song and flip your boss the bird. And tell him I quit. You fat ass motherfucker. You can take this job and shove it up your ass. I said I quit. You big fat stinky like an old ass ham sandwich motherfucker. Oh, I'm going home and I'm smoking Ooh, Lord, I'm choking. Ooh, Lord, I'm smoking grass. I'm smoking weed, 'cause I don't need your fucking job. Oh,
And of course, nice Peter with "I quit, you fat motherfucker," and I felt that applied to Christie quite appropriately. Fat motherfucker.
Dedicated to a fat ass motherfucker.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our little break here. When we come back, we'll get into the stories and start taking some calls. Thank you for joining us here on Toker Talk Radio.
You smoke trees till you get what you need now. Designer drugs and minted smoke to get through the day. You always get them so high.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today. Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting.
Yo, you know what time it is. Get the swish and break it down. Spill the guts, fill the rub. Blow that motherfucker up. And get enough for the cannabis cup.
Welcome back, everybody. 9 after the hour. That's Heads into Clouds with Mary Jane. Their little remix rap there. Thanks for joining us. And if you joined us late, we're talking about that execrable toad, Christie, the governor of New Jersey, who basically he's vetoed. It's not even gotten to his desk yet, and he's already vetoed this bill that would expand the medical marijuana program. Basically, what the lawmakers want to do is to give parents, and anybody for that matter, who's on the medical marijuana program in New Jersey, give them the right to be able to go to another medical marijuana state, acquire the medicine they need, and bring it back to New Jersey. Now, the reason this is necessary is because New Jersey is the no garden state. Nobody's allowed to grow their own marijuana in New Jersey, right? So the people who want to be able to grow Charlotte's Web plants in New Jersey to help these little kids out can't do it. It's not allowed. And the dispensary system in New Jersey has been stonewalled and stymied and sabotaged at every juncture by Governor Christie. First, he required that when the medical marijuana law passed, first of all, keep in mind, we are talking about the nation's most restrictive medical marijuana law. Well, maybe Illinois is up there too, but hardest state to qualify for. They've only got a few hundred people on their program. And this is a state of 9 million people, the most densely populated state in the nation, about 900 people per square mile. And the bill, the law, called for 6 dispensaries. 6. 2 in the north, 2 in the middle of the state, 2 in the south of the state. Folks, there are 6 dispensaries on the street in which I live. On Sandy Boulevard, I could probably find 6 dispensaries. Let me think. Grape Ape, Flower to the People, there's at least 6 on Sandy, aren't there? Oh, yeah. and folks, they're always busy because there's plenty of demand. But no, 6 dispensaries were supposed to serve the entire 9 million person state of New Jersey. But then Governor Christie came in and said, oh, no, not so fast. Not so fast here. Just because it says 6 centers doesn't mean all those centers are going to be dispensaries. In fact, let's make it so only 4 of those centers are dispensaries and 2 of them are grow sites. You heard me right, folks. Governor Christie expects 2 grow sites to supply 4 dispensaries to deal with a state of 9 million people. Now, you also keep in mind that just getting your medical marijuana card is tougher in hell in New Jersey, because not only do you have to put up the $200 and register with the state and have a qualifying condition and go find a doctor that'll give you all your medical records and then take those medical records and find another doctor who will actually recommend your medical marijuana. The doctor on the other side of that equation, the one who's signing for your medical marijuana, that doctor has to register with the state. No other medical marijuana program requires that. But in New Jersey, because we're terrified of the possibility that someone might get high on the boardwalk, in New Jersey, the doctor has to register with the state. So in a state of 9 million people, they've only got 250 doctors who are registered to recommend cannabis. Now, that's just the case if you're an adult. Because we're so terrified of the children, getting a hold of any marijuana at any time for any reason whatsoever. We're so terrified of that Governor Christie made it exceptionally hard to get a minor on the program. To get a minor on the program, it's not good enough that the minor's doctor finds that cannabis would be good. They got to go get a second opinion from a pediatrician. And remember, that pediatrician also has to be registered on the program. There's only two in the whole state that are registered. And go get a third opinion from a psychiatrist. And there's only 25 of those registered in the state. Folks, it's easier to get a building permit. It's easier to get OxyContin than it is to get a kid on the medical marijuana program in New Jersey. And yet, with all those hurdles, a few people actually have done it. A few people actually have gotten their medical marijuana card for their kid. But when they get it, what good is it? Of those 4 centers that were going to be dispensaries to open for the whole state, Christie's been dragging so much on the regulations and rejecting applications and all this to the point where only 1 of those centers is open. 1 dispensary in a state of 9 million people. So with all that, you can understand why a parent who's got a kid who's in uncontrollable seizures, who's suffering brain damage, who isn't likely to live to their 3rd birthday, might turn on the TV one night and see Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN, might see a little girl who's got the same exact condition that their child has, and sees with their own damn eyes the miracle of that CBD oil reducing those seizures from hundreds a week to 1 or 2 maybe a week. That little Charlotte Figi from the Sanjay Gupta special, as she was suffering with Dravet, she got a sibling, right? I don't remember if it was a twin or just a real close age sibling, but Charlotte's development was beginning to fall behind. She wasn't, learning to speak as quickly. She wasn't, as coordinated as quickly because these seizures keep, interfering with the development of her brain. And of course, as a young child, age 0 to 5, that's where you're getting a huge amount of your brain development. But this Dravet syndrome, making it impossible, leaving these kids behind, and again, threatening their lives. These seizures can be so severe they can actually kill the kids. And that's what happened with little Sabina Rose. She had a major seizure, lasted 25 hours. parents already had, all the pharmaceuticals that science can come up with, all the they call them rescue meds, all these anti-seizure medications they pumped this kid full of. Nothing was helping. They take the little 15-month-old to the hospital. The hospital pumps some more meds in. Nothing's working. The doctors find that the seizures were so severe they were leading to brain swelling. They had to put the girl into an induced coma just to keep her alive, which they did for 5 or 6 days. And then yesterday, as Governor Christie was talking about how we're never ever going to expand the program under no circumstances, because that's tantamount to legalization. That's a slippery slope. The day he's saying that bullshit, that little girl was dying in that hospital, and she died yesterday. When we all know there is a CBD oil that will not get anyone high, that costs very little to produce, that would have kept her alive. She'd be alive today. So I want you to think about, because, you've heard me go off on patients not criminals and, medical marijuana box canyon and this whole CBD thing. And I've warned that part of the problem here in the framing is that the more medical marijuana gets accepted, the more we cement in this frame that using it as medicine is okay, that if you have a medical excuse, it's okay. But the people who are using marijuana to get high are dirty, disgusting, terrible people. It's an awful, wicked habit that will cause the whole sky to fall. And we got to do everything in our power to stop that. Because it's that frame that allows Chris Christie to do these things. It's that frame that allows Chris Christie to do the mental calculus that says, we must do everything in our power to stop legalization from happening. Legalization is such an awful outcome that we can even refuse medicine to little kids and let them die to prevent it. That's how bad this has become. That's how demonized marijuana use is. I don't think Chris Christie's an idiot. I don't think he's an unintelligent man. You don't get that much political power, being that much of an execrable toad, being that obese, without some severe political skill. And severe political skill also requires a whole lot of intellect. So I don't think the man's stupid. I don't see how anyone could have seen that Sanjay Gupta documentary and then done what he has done. And then say, nope, we can't let that in. If we let minors have a CBD oil that isn't smoked and doesn't get you high, why, where will that lead? My God, it might lead to legalization and people thinking that pot's okay and smoking pot and getting high off it. Well, guess what, Governor? People in New Jersey are already smoking pot and getting high. Psst, I know a lot of them. That's what's really frustrating about this. If marijuana had never been discovered and no one had ever used it to get high, and it was now, brand new thing, we just found this plant in the Amazon rainforest, and we take the CBD out of it, it'll help kids with epilepsy. Well, for sure, everybody would be jumping on that as the miracle cure, and nobody would be too concerned about anybody getting high off of it. We might think if this were a brand new flower we had just discovered in the rainforest, we might think, well, if you smoke it, it can cause some mental effects. So let's make sure not to approve that, but we can at least take the CBD out and help the kids. Even if you were the most paranoid, hating people getting high person in the world, anyone should at least be able to come to the conclusion that, hey, the CBD thing isn't the getting high thing. It's a whole separate thing. Any logical, rational human being. So it just flummoxes me that Chris Christie, he can't not see this. He must be making political calculus. He must know what he's doing. There's no possible way he cannot see that his actions have led to the death of this little girl. And it might be understandable, again, if marijuana had never been discovered and we might have some chance of preventing people from ever getting high on it. But that ship sailed hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years ago. People are smoking marijuana in New Jersey. People are getting high in New Jersey. And you preventing a little girl with epilepsy from getting the life-saving medication she needs doesn't do a damn thing to stop anybody from smoking pot in New Jersey. So, Chris Christie, fuck you and go to hell.
I concur wholeheartedly.
Thank you. You know, I don't curse a lot. You may have noticed. I'm not a guy who's prone to cursing, but the reason is because I save it for when it's really deserved. Like you, Christie, you fucking
off.
toad.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio.
Let him bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let him bring in the beat.
I like it like that.
Well, I don't know what you came to do, but what we came to do.
That's right, baby. We're keeping the funk alive right here at Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Ring, your groovy home of soul, funk, and disco. So join me, Big Daddy, every Thursday night, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, at the Funky Roller Ring, where every night is Saturday night.
That's music from the Donnas with Smoke You Out. Welcome back. It's Toker Talk Radio, 24 after the hour here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon. My last day here for the next couple of 5-10 shows or so. Headed off to Phoenix tomorrow for a long layover on my way to Miami. So I will be in Phoenix tomorrow for a live show at the Lax Lounge. On Thursday and Friday, I'll be in Key West, Florida at the Normal Key West Legal Seminar. And we are hoping to get a lot of interviews for you there and a couple of live shows from the beach down there in Key West. And then the following week, Monday through Thursday, I will still be in Miami. And so we'll bring you live shows from Miami. Hope we get a chance to visit Robert Platshorn, perhaps. And then the following Friday, we'll be back on the 13th. So we'll see you then. Stick with us as we're on the road here with 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show. All right, so getting to lineup, I want to also remind you that tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific time, we got a new edition of Thrasher Sports, with Herb Thrasher. And this is going to be a good one tonight, Thrasher Sports, because Herb Thrasher is a huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan, And the Tide fell to their rivals Auburn. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. Plus, the NBA Trailblazers, the Portland Trailblazers, are the best team in the Western Conference.
Ass. What was it? 106, 102?
Yeah, they beat Indiana.
The Pacers.
Yeah, the number one team in the East. We just beat them 106-102.
That's
and
funny.
It's really good times here in Rip City. So
I'm not a big sports guy, but go team.
It's always good when the hometown team does well, because then people in the hometown are excited, happy. So can't be bad.
Excited-er, happier.
There we go. All right. Let me get to a different story now. Because if I keep talking about Christie, I'm going to have to hit something. And Brian, I've got a punching bag in the other room. I'll go work on the heavy bag, man.
Okay.
But I want to get to this other story that I didn't manage to get to yesterday. And yes, Keith Stropp will be in Key West as well. Meddy Grove, Vermont's asking in the chat room. Yes, we'll definitely get an interview with Keith. All right, but I found this post in Business Week that I thought was interesting because it said, "Want legalized marijuana? Better hope America stays grumpy."
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Grumpiness so that we can get legalized pot? That's weird. Yeah. But this is coming from a Socionomics Institute, is what they're called. Socionomics Institute out of Gainesville, Georgia. They're a think tank, and the guy working there is named Ewan Wilson. And he thinks the time will come when people will smoke Maui Wowie just as, casually as someone would drink a Budweiser. It's going to be no big deal sometimes. And he's just looking at the trends and realizes that what we all do, that marijuana re-legalization is kind of inevitable. But what he studies here with socionomics is social mood, the mood of the country. Now, that's a little different than the actual stats of the country. Like, unemployment may be going down, but people still might be bummed out, right? So the mood is slightly different than the stats, but they're kind of related. If the country's going in the tank, people's mood tends to go down. If the country's doing better, mood tends to go up. That's, standard. But this is what they study. Socionomics, they study how the social mood impacts social action. And what they've discovered here, and this is from the Business Week article, when a society's mood is trending positively, people tend to buy stocks, expand businesses, act peacefully, and want happier entertainment. In a negative mood trend, people tend to sell stocks, shrink businesses, act belligerently, and go for more somber entertainment. We have found that social mood also regulates society's tolerance for recreational drugs. In times of negatively trending social mood, people are less optimistic about the future and their ability to improve it. They start questioning the high financial, social, human, and political costs of prohibition. Their patience wanes. Their motivation fades. They give up on prohibition. Now, we've seen this, and we talked about this, with respect to the states when they're trying to pass marijuana legalization. They'll point out how much money can be made. We can tax and regulate it. We can make money for schools. And it would make sense that in a down economy, that might lead to more support for marijuana legalization. It also scares me a little bit because I worry about when the economy's up and we can afford prohibition, will people want to go back to it? But that's something we're just going to have to deal with. They point out how alcohol prohibition was in full force during the 1920s when the stock market was a bull market. But prohibition was repealed in 1933, just 4 years after the 1929 stock market crash and the conclusion of an 89% decline in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, recently, the U.S. stock market's been rallying, but in real terms, if you adjust it for inflation, we've kind of been in a bear market since 2000. And you've also got, the approval ratings for Congress and the president are way low. That's another indicator of negative social mood. And as the authors point out, during the last decade of negative social mood, we've seen many, many positive reforms in marijuana, not just medical, but the legalization that we got as well. And where this really caught my eye was it included this graph, because me, I'm all about the graphs. I love that stuff. So here is a graph, and it is showing us, it's called Ban with the Bull, Chill with the Bear. Let me take off some of the graphics here on the screen so you can see what we're dealing with here. Ban with the bull, chill with the bear. And along the bottom, this graph goes all the way back to the 1920s, up through about 2010. Along the left axis, we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, But it's in a logarithmic scale, which, so it goes from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. So that helps to smooth the graph a little bit, so you don't have as wild of fluctuations. And also, this is adjusted on inflation as well, inflation adjusted. And they point out here in red all of the points in history where something restrictive on drugs happened. And as we look at all these restrictions that happen to drugs, they've tended to happen as this stock market line has gone up. Going back to the 1920s when they started the Narcotics Import and Export Act, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics is created by the end of the 1920s. But then there's a huge decline in the Dow, and that's where we see the end of Prohibition, the 21st Amendment repealing Prohibition. And the blue items along the bottom point to points in history where more tolerance was granted toward drugs. So there's our tolerance toward drugs starting to happen as the market had crashed. Now, as the market goes up, the Marijuana Tax Act gets passed. But as the market goes down, we get Hemp for Victory. As the market goes up, we get the Boggs Act and the Narcotics Control Act and the last legal hemp crop and the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. All of these things throughout the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, as the national economy was growing and growing and growing and the mood was better and better, we found more tolerance for prohibiting drugs. It was worth it. But then, as we hit the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, we get this malaise. And that was the malaise they talked about during the 1970s, during the Carter administration. The economy was pretty much stagnant. The national mood was very, very low following Vietnam and so forth. And during that period, we get the Foundation of Normal, the Schaefer Commission recommending decriminalization, the Foundation of High Times, the Carter administration recommending decrim of small amounts, all throughout this flatlining of the stock market. Then, as we hit the 1980s, the stock market rebounds. And as it rebounds, we get more negative items with respect to prohibition. We get the Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, George H.W. Bush's, we'll build enough jails for them speech. But in one outlier, one strange outlier, we get the 1996 passage of medical marijuana. Even as the stock market is going up toward the last portion of the Clinton administration, going up quite a bit, as a matter of fact, we find a positive reform for marijuana. And throughout that entire period, positive reforms for marijuana. But then, as the economy flattens out in the 2000s during the George W. Bush administration, back come the negatives with respect to prohibition. We get the DEA banning hemp products with THC in them. That was later overturned. And then we get the Supreme Court ruling that the drug law, that the medical marijuana doesn't protect you from federal drug laws. And as that kind of flatlined, we're continuing to get negative support for legalization at the federal level. Now, the states are passing medical marijuana during this flatline period. Then, as we get to the end of the 2000s, we get the 2008 crash, the big speculator bubble, the bankers. But as that is going down, we see more positives for tolerating marijuana. American College of Physicians supports medical marijuana. Massachusetts decrims marijuana. Attorney General Holder sends out the Ogden memo. Now, this graph appears to only go to 2010, but if we could extend it to 2013, you'd find a flatlining of the stock market graph. Again, even though it has improved in nominal terms with respect to the Obama administration, in real terms, adjusted for inflation, it's kind of flattened out. And as it's flattened out through 2010 through 2013, we've seen California attempt to legalize marijuana, Oregon attempt to legalize marijuana, and Washington and Colorado succeed in legalizing marijuana. So I thought that was some very interesting data to match the national mood to their support for prohibition. And the only thing that I'm afraid of is the economy doing better. Is the national mood going up and people deciding that, wait, we can go ahead and prohibit again? We're going to have to think about how we present legalization as a positive. not just the amelioration of a negative. And that's what I think it is. When these researchers are talking about people lose their patience for prohibition, it's kind of saying, gosh, we'd like to bust potheads, but we just can't afford it. We need to make busting potheads a negative. We need to make it so that even if you can afford it, you wouldn't want to do it. So we got to make that happen, and I'll continue to think of ways to make that happen and present them to you here on Toker Talk Radio. In the meantime, we got to take a break because, dry mouth happens and cannabinoid levels are a little deficient. So stick around. When we come back, we got more here on Toker Talk Radio, including a look at marijuana's risk to driving. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Still don't get it, do you? Alright, let me make this as clear as I possibly can. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Welcome back, everyone. 39 after the hour, hanging out here, Toker Talk Radio with Brian the Red. I'm Radical Russ here at Roller J Studios. Okay, so looking through the news here, there's a story that I'll definitely have to cover on tomorrow's show, but it's breaking news, and I thought that we should get to it here since I was looking at it. California Appeals Court has ruled over the Thanksgiving break that cities and counties in California may ban all medical marijuana growing. They can ban growing outside. They can ban growing in your own backyard. They can ban growing in your own house. They can ban growing a single plant in your closet. Gee, that 5x5 garden for Prop 19 looks pretty good now, doesn't it?
You guys are fucking idiots.
Well, a 5x5 garden would be, gosh, it would just be too small. Well, guess what? Now you got a 0 by
nothing.
0.
Nothing.
You got a 0 by 0 garden. How's that?
Take that.
But again, not to, I can't help but say that because I just cannot forgive the medical marijuana dispensaries and growers who bitched and moaned about Prop 19 when we kept telling them, dudes, you ought to vote for this. This is going to protect you better than you're protected now.
I've said it so many times. Every step forward is a step forward. It doesn't matter how small. Just vote for it, get it passed, and then change it if you don't like it. Not passing things gets situations like this.
Yep. The case was the city of Live Oak in California, Live Oak, California, passed an ordinance in 2011 banning medical marijuana cultivation. Patients sued, and a local judge sided with the city. So they appealed, and the 3rd District Court sided with the city. So they appealed to the appellate court, and it has sided with the city. Now, I imagine they might appeal this to the California Supreme Court. Guess what they're going to do? They will side with the city.
Most likely.
Most likely.
Yeah.
It's very rare that a Supreme Court wants to overturn appellate court decisions, especially if the appellate court decisions affirmed a previous court decision.
And if it was something, in just that state.
Yeah. And marijuana. Yeah, exactly. So the appeals court held that there is, quote, no unfettered right to cultivate marijuana for medical purposes, end quote. The appeals court held that banning medical marijuana growing in a city or county does not conflict with Proposition 215 and does not conflict with the 2003 Medical Marijuana Program Act that was approved by the legislature. Activists say the appellate court left open at least 2 legal challenges to the Live Oak Ordinance. A number of jurisdictions, including Fresno, are considering banning all medical marijuana cultivation. So here we go. We got once again, the terrible situation of California medical marijuana, where on one hand, it was a good thing that they made it almost completely unregulated and free form and Wild West, because anybody who wants to get a marijuana recommendation can get it. On the other hand, by not instituting rights and coming up with regulations regarding medical marijuana, left it open for large swaths of the state to ban it, to ban having any dispensaries, to ban having any home grow. So sure, for $40 in a store, you can get yourself a medical marijuana recommendation, but unless you live in the Bay Area or LA or somewhere that has embraced dispensaries and home growing, you can't make use of that recommendation. So this is why I encourage everyone in California to get on the ball for full legalization. For too long, people in California have had kind of a I got's mine attitude. Well, why bother? All I got to do is spend $40 and get my card, go to these dispensaries. Why bother? Well, this is why you bother. This is why you bother, because you've left it open for the state to basically prohibit medical marijuana. And this can't be fixed. This needs to just be overhauled. This needs to be turned into legalization. And I sure hope people are putting that together. Now, with that said, another thing that frustrates me in the marijuana movement is what I call true believer syndrome. True believer syndrome is a situation where you are so taken aback, you're so astounded, you are so amazed by the miracles of marijuana that you forget about reality. Okay? Now, it's easy to get excited about the miracles of marijuana. We know them, right? The medical aspect alone, even just CBD oil alone, if all marijuana did was cure Dravet syndrome with CBD oil, that would be enough for it to be a miracle. But it does so much more. And we all know, I'm not going to sit here and list every single, thing that it'll help, but we know medically it helps so much. And it's a fuel, and it's a food, and it's a fiber, and it's a great social inebriant that is less toxic, less addictive, and doesn't cause hangovers. So it's all these amazing things, and the true believer sees that and cannot put him or herself in the shoes of other people who don't. The true believer recognizes that marijuana is safer than alcohol, recognizes that it's never killed a single person, recognizes that it's low in addictiveness and very, very beneficial in so many ways, but operates in a space where economics and politics don't matter. And I bring this up because the true believers, while they are sincere, and while they want legalization as bad as the rest of us, they don't do us any favors by spinning their wheels on pie-in-the-sky initiatives that have no chance of getting funded, placed on the ballot, or even if it gets that far, winning. Case in point, Measure 80, 2012 in Oregon, written by true believers who know that marijuana is safer than alcohol and so forth. So they wrote it so that you could have unlimited marijuana plants and unlimited marijuana possession. You could have a 60-acre farm growing the highest THC sinsemilla possible. You could have a barn packed to the gills with bales of marijuana. And so long as you weren't doing it commercially, it was all okay. Now, from a true believer standpoint, that's reasonable. Because from our standpoint, shit, marijuana never kills nobody. What difference does it make if you have a field of it or a warehouse full of it? Nobody stops us from stocking a warehouse full of beer if we want it. What's the big deal? We can brew 100 to 500 gallons of home brew, depending on what state you're in. What's the big deal? Well, the problem is that's seeing it from our point of view and not seeing it from the other side. When you see it from the other side, they see, oh, unlimited possession, unlimited cultivation. That sounds like drug deals. That sounds like massive amounts of cannabis grows that get funneled out of state. That's what it sounds like, lack of control to them. Sounds like Wild West to them. And that's why when Washington and Colorado were passing legalization with 55%, Oregon was failing with 46%. And now the same type of true believer syndrome is in full effect in California. As I read this piece, by the way, where I got this appeals court piece was from Legalization Nation, which is out on the eastbayexpress.com. I need only go down to the first comment where someone cleverly named Harry Balls says, there's a simple solution to all of this. Currently being circulated is the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative 2014. This is the Jack Herer Initiative, for those of you familiar with it, and blah, 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 blah. And let me tell you what the Jack Herer Initiative has in it. It's a total true believer initiative, folks. It says, as long as you got less than 99 plants and less than 12 pounds, it's personal. And every pot prisoner shall be released, so long as they're a nonviolent offender, shall be released immediately from city, county, and state penitentiaries and jails. And all the records of anybody who has ever been convicted of anything that is now legal in California will have their records completely expunged. And people will pretty much be able to grow marijuana almost anywhere they want to. And there will be all sorts of commercial cultivation in stores. And the taxes will be limited to $10 per ounce. Now, from our point of view, there's nothing wrong with that. Sounds good to me. Hell, the pot prisoners should be let go. Their records should be expunged. 99 plants and 12 pounds, that would work for a year's worth of weed if you were using a whole lot of it, I suppose. But again, these people are living in a world where economics and political realities don't matter. I like the Jack Herer Initiative. You like the Jack Herer Initiative. Can you name a billionaire who does? See, folks, every single marijuana reform that has ever made the ballot and passed had big money backing, had a billionaire or two behind it, pumping in the money and the professionals and the signature gathering to make it happen. The Jack Herer Initiative doesn't have that because these people are, they didn't get to be billionaires by wasting their money. They do their due diligence. They look at polls. They look at what people are ready for. They test the environment. They check out what is the political will, what is going to be the opposition to a particular initiative. And they've looked at this and said, there's no way in hell a state that just rejected 1 ounce and a 5x5 garden is going to pass 99 plants and 12 pounds. No way in hell. Not to mention the massive, massive pushback you would get from the law enforcement community trying to release all the pot prisoners and expunge all their records. Now, I'd love it if it passed. I'd love it if it get on the ballot. But folks, it's not going to get enough signatures because they don't have the money for it. The money is not going to come for it because the people who have the money realize it can't pass, even if it does make the ballot. And you can't make the ballot with an all-volunteer signature drive. Has never happened. Never happened in a statewide initiative. At least as far as marijuana goes. I don't know, maybe like Prop 8 or these anti-gay things maybe, but not that I've ever heard of that a marijuana initiative has made it on volunteer signatures alone. So you've got these people who are, again, well-meaning true believers who want to see marijuana legalized, spending their time, spending their efforts on something that is not going to go anywhere in 2014 and is going to get people's hopes up. People who maybe aren't as educated on these political issues, but are diehard supporters of marijuana legalization, get their hopes up that something good could happen and that they'll donate their time to it and their money to it and their resources to it, only to find that it goes nowhere. Now, meanwhile, while these people are working on 2014, there is a great set of activists that are looking toward 2016 that realize that getting California, the hugest state in the nation population-wise, to pass marijuana legalization is maybe something you ought to put some time and planning into for a long, long time, and maybe write an initiative that's a little more restrictive to get a better chance of getting major funding and major political support. And those people working on Jack Herer 2014 could be spending their efforts and time educating people and motivating resources to come together toward 2016. But no, they're true believers. They actually believe this could work as an all-volunteer thing. All right, we'll come back for the last segment. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Bomb, bomb, bomb.
What's happening, cool cats? This is Big Daddy, and I want you to cruise on over to the funky roller rink. We'll be grooving all night long.
I like it.
Doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, every Thursday night.
Funky, delicious.
Green is the power of the people that they face, and green like a leaf that is falling from the sky, green like a turtle in the middle of the ocean, green for the child that grows up in our time.
That's right, we're going green here on Toker Talk Radio. It's 54 after, and coming up next, we got a new edition of The Weed Nerd with Subcool and Ms. Jill. Make sure you check that out. And then at 6 and 7, replays of these last 2 hours, Russ Belville Show and Toker Talk Radio, followed by a new edition of Thrasher Sports with Herb Thrasher and myself. You know we'll be talking about college football, NFL, and NBA, and any other topic that might come up through our chat room. So join us live at 8 p.m. tonight and every Tuesday night for Thrasher Sports. All right, as we wind up, one more story coming out through the news wires here about Uruguay, the South American country that's on the verge of becoming the first country in the world to legalize marijuana. And next Tuesday, a week from today, the Senate in Uruguay will vote on the bill that would make their country the first in the world to legally regulate the production, distribution, and sale of marijuana for adults. be the most legal country in the world. Now, the Uruguayan House has already passed this bill. The Senate is led mostly by people in the same party as the president, Jose Mujica, who has been championing this bill for years now, and they're expected to pass this. So the bill was approved by the House with a vote of 50 out of 96. So I guess that's 50 to 46. And then once it's approved by the Senate, and it's expected to be approved, Uruguay will have 120 days to write the regulations before implementing the law. Now, next Tuesday, they might vote on this. That would be December 10th. And then Uruguay's president would have to sign it. And I don't know how soon it would come to his desk for a signature, but should get there before the end of the month, I would expect. Once that law is signed, 120 days works out to about 4 months to get this proposal together. Folks, I'm looking at my calendar here. We just may have a legal marijuana country by 420. Let's book our flight to Uruguay, Brian. We're going to Uruguay in 420.
You hear that? Okay, so we're going to need some donations.
I know a girl who could translate for us. She's very, in fact, she's been to Uruguay many times.
Cool.
So we got a translator. So yeah, let's see if we can pull that off. Although here's the thing, folks. We got to be, actually, it wouldn't be that good of a deal for us because, first of all, the Uruguayan weed is only going to be available to people that register with the government. And, you have to buy it in the government weed store, basically. And it's only going to be available to Uruguayan citizens because they don't want to have that drug tourism.
I don't know if I can apply for dual citizenship.
With the Uruguay. But and the other thing, and this is what's so sad about us not being able to get our Uruguayan weed card, they're talking about selling weed for $1 a gram.
Yeah.
$1 a gram, people. that is the biggest thing that will come out of Uruguay legalizing.
Well, an American dollar a gram.
Right.
Which translates to, I think it was like $13 to $17 in Uruguay.
Yeah, whatever their currency is, sure.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if we get it fully legal here, it's not going to be $1 a gram American.
Right. And the other thing too is that to the general public and to the framing of the issue, the details of the American currency versus Uruguayan currency versus inflation versus, nobody cares about that shit. They'll just say $1 a gram. How come it's $12 here?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
I know, that's what's already been happening.
It's just like how when we legalized, finally it opened people's minds up to, hey, wait, we can actually legalize. When Uruguay has $1 grams, it's going to open people's minds up to, hey, wait, weed doesn't have to be this expensive? Because I think one of the problems we got is it's been illegal for so long and been expensive for so long that we've come to attribute a monetary value to an ounce of weed that shouldn't really exist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like my brother and I, used to joke, that we were basically smoking gold because when we were growing up, it was basically on par, the same price per ounce as gold.
Yeah.
And it should never have been. The only reason it is because it was illegal.
Yeah. Prohibition price supports. And that's the other thing that cracks me up when these people complain about, the marijuana taxes are going to be too high. You're being taxed now.
Yeah.
You're paying the dealer tax.
We called it taxed. It's like they tax the hell out of that stuff when you're playing 4-0, because somebody had to run a special, Anyway, it's bullshit.
It's bullshit. All right. Hey, that's all the time we've got for today. Time goes by so quickly, folks. Thanks for joining us here at Toker Talk Radio. And make sure you check us out on Spreaker.com. Easy way to get there, rad-r.us/420live with a capital L. rad-r.us/420live with a capital L. For Brian the Rad, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it.